Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I'm your host, Colleen Biggs, and I want to thank all of our listeners out there. They are downloading all of our episodes. We have hit the top 3% globally for podcasts. I'm so proud. And today we are celebrating that with you because it is because of you that we are here. So thank you as every week that you download, as I bring on guests that just wow us with what they know and the tools and tips that they give us. And today it is not going to be any different than any other podcast. Let me tell you, Celeste Warren is with us today, and we're going to talk about a lot of diversity and inclusion. So we're going to jump into, we are all in this together. And if it's any time in the world that we need to be talking about being in this together, it is now. But before I get to our guest for today, I want to thank our sponsor, No Problem Parenting, for being our sponsor for today. Are you frustrated with your kids? Do you constantly worry about them? Or maybe you're just sick and tired of dealing with misbehaviors in your home. Well, have no fear, because No Problem Parenting is here to help you turn any emotional or behavioral problem into a no problem while strengthening your relationship with your kids at the same time. You don't have to be the bad guy to get your kids to behave. Join the No Problem Parenting community, where you will find down-to-earth, practical, fun, no-nonsense tips and ideas for how to deal with and overcome any parenting challenge. Go to noproblimparenting.com and get started now. Become the confident leader your kids crave you to be. So thank you so much to Jackie Finneman and her No Problem Parenting crew for sponsoring our episode today. Well, like I said, Celeste Warren is with us today, and I want to tell you a little bit about her. She's the Vice President, Global Diversity and Inclusion Center of Excellence at Merck. Celeste has over 30 years of experience in the fields of human resources, diversity, equity, and inclusion and change management. She is currently the VP of the Global Diversity and Inclusion Center. She serves on the boards of RWJBarnabas, Health Systems, and All In Together. She is also a member of CNBC's Workforce Executive Council and World's 50s Inclusion and Diversity Impact Community. She's also the author of the book, How to Be a Diversity and Inclusion Ambassador. We're going to be talking a lot about that today. So Celeste, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Colleen. I'm so glad to be here. And congratulations on reaching that huge milestone.
You know, I always believe that people are brought into our lives at the right time for a specific reason. And I know, Celeste, you and I aren't very familiar with each other. And so I'm just so thankful to what pulled us together for you to be here today, because that means that someone who is part of our circle, the Leap Circle, needs to hear this message today. This message needs to be heard by somebody. So I really would love to know, how did you get involved in this from the very beginning? Why is inclusion so important to you?
I think it started when I was a child. I'm from Western Pennsylvania, small steel mill town. My father was the first Black teacher in that area, in that region, and first Black principal. And so growing up, a fourth out of 5 children, I had a chance to see him in his challenges, his struggles, his opportunities, and in being the first. And we're talking about the early 70s and 60s, and so as I was growing up, I saw this, and it always had just a strong impact on me as an individual. And so I always tell everybody, I had training since I was a baby in seeing firsthand through my father what it was like going through life, and his professional life and his personal life, in that journey of being the first and the adversity. One of the stories that he told me as I was in college, and we were just talking, and that's when you start thinking that you're grown.
You're an adult if you're in college. Why not?
Yeah. And I was having this conversation with my dad, and he was telling me a story about when he first started teaching. And he got his master's degree from University of Pittsburgh in education. And his first job was teaching gym class. And they at the school district, and they didn't have a gymnasium, and so he had to teach the kids out in the parking lot. And so when they came out and they were teaching each period that he was teaching the kids, the parents of the children came, parked their cars in the parking lot to watch this black man teaching their white children.
Yeah.
And so the cars, just pulled up, and I, as he was telling me the story, I was getting angry, and I was like, well, what did you do? I mean, how did you deal with this? And he said, I just did my job. I taught the kids, I gained their respect, and you know what happened? And I said, what? He said, one by one, each day, those cars disappeared. And I not only gained the kids' trust, but I gained their parents' trust as well, and respect. And people may have different values and standards and beliefs, but if they respect you and what you do, and you can earn that respect, then it can go a long way. So that was a lesson to me, one of the many lessons I learned from my father, and it just sort of set me on this path. It was a winding road, but it set me on this path. This has always been a part of me.
Was that the first time that you had a conversation with him like that? Or do you remember sitting around the dining room table while your dad was teaching, and did the stories that he told you of what was happening, or was he a little bit more private about that?
Yeah, Colleen, he was a private person outside of our household.
Yeah.
But I can remember many conversations as a little girl sitting around the table, and my mother and my father talking about what happened through the day. And the conversation, he tried to not show his anger. I don't think I ever saw my dad like really, really just so upset that he was just, extremely angry or pounding his fist on something. That wasn't him. He was reserved. He was even killed. He was level, but he was a stark disciplinarian too, as we all of his kids know. They call us PKs, principal's kids. But he was someone who they would talk about what was going on. And as a little girl, I didn't understand all of it when I was very, very little. But as I grew up and I was, going through junior high and high school, and I was experiencing my own challenges, going to a mostly white high school, and so I was, I was experiencing some of it too. And my dad would bring me into the discussions and we would discuss what was happening to us, as we were going through some of our challenges at school. So it was a time for me. It was constant learning and growth as an individual, as a young lady. And my father just really helped me to really understand that you can get through all of this.
Yeah.
Do what you need to be doing. Try to make sure that you are doing the best that you can do, excelling in what you do, and again, gaining people's respect and their dignity, and always treat others with dignity and respect, no matter how they treat you.
That's right.
And you have to be forthright. Sometimes you have to be. I have to be direct, a lot of times, but I do it without making the person feel like they lost their dignity and respect. And so that's always really, really important, because you got to, when you're talking to someone, whatever the message may be, if they have put up this screen and this fence, and they aren't receptive to what you have to say and the message that you want them to receive, then you haven't done your job. You've done a disservice. So no matter how hard the conversation, you have to have it. And my father was really good about that, and my mother.
Yeah. What a beautiful story. I love it that you said violence, and anger really are never the answer, because they aren't. Violence should never be the answer to how we get from A to B, and where we want to go. And I love that you talked about respecting each other, because we are all in this together. And what do you find with working with companies and working, in the as vice president today? What do you find is the most common hurdle that you're up against when it comes to diversity and inclusion? Because I would say in the past several years, we've seen more division, it seems, and people are, there's this wave of movement that I see people, spreading kindness and love and bringing people together and helping your neighbor and all of those things, a lot, especially, in my communities and the people I'm around and the LEAP community. And I see women, lifting each other and helping each other out and giving free advice and introducing them to other women to help their businesses grow. And it doesn't really matter where we live, what community we live in. None of that matters. So what are you finding seems to be the hurdle, or what is I guess the main struggle that is happening today that you find that would be a great message for us to dig into today?
I think you said it, Colleen. It's the divisiveness.
Yeah.
We especially over the last 2-3 years, we've seen this, I call it an employee awakening.
Yeah.
That just has been amplified, especially over the murder of George Floyd and the pandemic and all of the different things that have been happening. And we always wanted people to elevate their voice. We've always wanted people to speak up and speak truth to their power and really, raise their voices. And when we were saying that, we were saying it to those groups that were underrepresented, undervalued, marginalized in the workplace. And what we have seen is that everybody has elevated their voices, and they have elevated their voices in a way that in some cases is kind of detrimental. And so what I see as some of the big challenges is around some of the voices that have elevated and how they aren't treating others with dignity and respect. They're not valuing different perspectives and viewpoints that come from the experiences of different people from different communities. And that to me is very, very, it's challenging, because when they hear the words, speak up, speak your mind, they tend to do it from the perspective of, well, I'm going to do it and I'm just going to say whatever I want to, and I don't care who it hurts. And that's not what we mean when we say we want people to elevate their voices. We want to hear different perspectives and different beliefs and different value systems so we can understand. We may agree to disagree, and that's okay, but we need to make sure that we're doing it with a foundation of dignity and respect. And sometimes they're not doing that. A lot of times we get into the discussion of equity, and many individuals who have been in positions of power, all of their lives, they've benefited from privilege. They don't understand that all of those isms, racism, sexism, homophobia, all of those different, xenophobia, all of those isms that exist, they're there, and they don't necessarily understand it because they haven't experienced it. And so in the workplace, when we have to put different programs in place, like a women's leadership program to help them with their leadership skills and capabilities, and how to maneuver and how to just be them, their authentic selves in the workplace, and reach their career aspirations, whatever they might be. When we have to put some of those programs in place like that, sometimes we have those that have been in the majority. They look and they say, well, why do you need that? And why do you need a women's leadership program? Why do you need employee resource groups? Why do you need, different training programs and these different things? Why do you need all of those things? And isn't that really exclusive? That's not really inclusive. They don't understand that those isms exist, right? And in order for us to really truly have true equality, we have to put actions and programs and initiatives of equity so we can raise up everybody so they're on the same
Right.
playing field. And those folks that have always been up here, they don't understand what we're doing to the folks here to get them here.
Yeah.
And so we have to explain and go get those individuals and talk to them and help them to understand that those isms exist and
Yeah.
how it looks to people who identify differently than they do, and not just explain to them, but grab them and help them to be allies, active allies for those individuals who identify differently than they do. And that's probably for me in this day and age where we are with diversity and inclusion, the most challenging thing, from my perspective. It's getting people to understand it isn't a pie. You're not being left out. It's equal rights. We want everybody to have
Mhm.
the same rights and abilities and opportunities that everyone should have.
Yeah.
That's
It was
basically it.
a conversation we had several podcasts back, where I think it might have been when we were celebrating International Women's Month or something like that. And we were talking about how 30 years ago, women couldn't even get a loan without having a man's signature on it. And today, I was just talking to a friend yesterday that, how many years ago, I don't know, 35 years ago, I went to high school with him. And he said one of their businesses, they, filed they put her as the majority owner and as a minority women owned business. And he said, he said to me, it's just unfortunate that there's still dividing and women owned businesses are filed as a minority
Mhm.
business. He said, it is what I know it is what it is, but it sucks. That's what he said to me on the phone. And I just thought that was, that was very interesting that he just as a, man noticed that himself.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
but I love that you say that because like we talked about, anger and violence serves nothing. And God put each one of us, we're childs of God, right? So we're
Mhm.
on this earth and we each have a purpose and what we are to be providing to this earth as we ask to come here, and God only asks that we never return in regret. So our responsibility isn't to judge anybody on
Mhm.
this earth. Our responsibility is to be the best version of ourselves we can be, serve humanity, participate and leave it a better place than what we found it, right? That's it's not happening.
Absolutely.
But that is our responsibility. And when we hold on to that faith and we're surrounding ourselves with people and attracting that and constantly using our voices for good, like you said, then it when other people feel accepted and loved and not rejected or shunned or judged for something that they say, I find that they tend to let down their guard a little bit because I don't know if everyone's really been taught, Celeste, how to be that kind or forgiving or accepting of other people if they were never raised in a family that felt that way, right? We're usually products of our environment, until we change our environment and we learn a different way. So are you finding that? I think today, corporate America, boy, I was in corporate America up until 2000 and let's see, I don't even remember, 2018, 19.
Mhm.
And I go back and corporate America today looks so different than it did back then. I mean, we were making strides. I created a gratitude program within my company because the more gratitude we show to employees, the harder their work, the more loyal they'll be. And they just appreciate you appreciating me. I call it we're in a human to human conversation. We're not B2B, B2C. Everyone likes to do B2B, B2C. We're H to H, right? It's one human talking to another human. And when we treat it that way, then it becomes an easier conversation. And so tell me, what are you up to now? What are you doing now? And what are you excited about? I know you've got your book that you rolled out not too long ago. Tell us why you wrote that book. Let's start there.
I speak at different conferences, and Colleen, every single conference that I speak at, there's a group of people that after I'm done, they want to talk, and every single time, there's always at least one person who says, Celeste, I heard what you're saying. I really enjoyed your talk. But I'm not a senior leader. I'm not in the C-suite. I'm not even a people manager. I'm just somebody who goes to work every day. How can I make a difference? What can I do? And after hearing that over and over and over again, I thought to myself, it's time that I share more openly what people can do. And you know what's so interesting, Colleen? It got to a point, especially over the last few years, that it wasn't just someone who didn't have people who reported to them. It was people managers saying, I'm a people manager, but my senior leader, I can't do everything that I want to do. Or it's the senior leader, it's the actual senior leader saying, I'd like to, but I just can't do that. My peers aren't doing it, so I can't get too far out in front. And it was all of these excuses, and so I just said, you know what? It's time for me to kind of just unload. And so during the pandemic, when we were shuttered in, I said, I need to write some of this down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just said, we need something that helps people feel more empowered to impact change. And they just didn't feel empowered. They just felt like, there's nothing I can do. I feel so paralyzed. And I just said, enough is enough. We got to help people to understand everybody has to play a role. If you want to see change, if you want to see change in the culture and wherever you work, whether that be a company, a nonprofit, a school district, a small organization, a large organization, it doesn't make a difference whether there's 10 people, 50 people or 50,000. If you want a change in the culture where you are, you have to play a role in it. You can't look up, down, around, or anything. You have to play a role. And so that's what it's about. It's helping people to play a role. And it's very pragmatic. It's not, all of these bells and whistles, and it's not theoretical, and it's not, it's not scholarly and all of that. It's just basically kind of, if you want to be the change, if you want to see change, you got to be the change. And so that's basically kind of what it's about.
Yeah. So, teaching each other how to be ambassadors of change, and that inclusion. I love that. And, that just warms my heart when you say that, because I just want to be in a world, and, I isolate myself sometimes, and surround myself with, we talk about it all the time. Your network is your net worth, and who you're surrounding yourself with, who you care to be in your presence, are they fueling your success? Are they kind? Are they generous? Do they love you? Or, are they holding you back from, where you want to go? And I know for sure, hands down, Celeste, if we are the examples of that, not just talking about what should change in the world, but are the examples of the change in the world, then people will watch you more than they listen to you. Hands down, right? They pay more attention. So Celeste, I know all the listeners right now are like, how do I connect with Celeste? I want to see what she's up to. How do I get a copy of her book? What is one of the best ways for them to do that?
The easiest way is on Amazon. Okay. You can go to Amazon.com and just put in Celeste Warren, how to be a diversity and inclusion ambassador. It's there. It's their hard copy. It's there. You can, if you're like me and you like the everything on electronic iPad or Kindle, it's available there, and it's also available through Audible. So it's available a myriad of different ways. And I just encourage everyone, if you can, because the proceeds for the book are going towards a nonprofit that my son and my daughter and I have started called Destination STEM. And it is basically a nonprofit to really help students of color, provide them with resources and scholarships to pursue STEM related fields. And so we're really excited about it. We launched it early this year, and it's something that I get to do with my son and my daughter. So it's really, really, I'm really excited about it. But
Yeah.
it's a wonderful time as you talk about leaping. I'm leaping into the book and the promotions and all of that. That was a journey, leaping into this nonprofit and just and continuing to do some wonderful things across our organization. And I'm hoping to learn from others too, what they're doing, so I can apply it as well, and hope that I can be, just a small inspiration to others.
Thank you. You can connect with Celeste also on LinkedIn at Celeste Warren or crwdiversity.com. That's crwdiversity.com. And congratulations to Christina, Celeste, and John Stephen Jr. Those are your children, correct, for
Yeah.
doing that nonprofit with you. It's fun to be a mom. We need to celebrate being a mom. We're not just career women, we're also moms. And that's, to me, one of my biggest accomplishments and that is what I feel makes me so, my power within is I can create life. Are you kidding me? That's amazing. And then they can go on to create life. And I love that you said that, we need to be the change. So ladies and gentlemen, just remember, you're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that will ever be. It's you. You're the one that makes you unique. And we're all in this together. So either be the change and be the example, or the world is going to continue to rumble as it is. So if you're frustrated with what's happening, stand up, be the change, use your voice, speak up, and spread kindness and love to others, and be accepting of everybody. It is not your responsibility to judge. That is God's responsibility, and everyone will meet that judgment day. So, Celeste, thank you so much for being with us today. Listeners, thank you so much for making us the top 3% global podcasts in the world. We love you so much, and we're so appreciative of you. And as always, you can send information to info@colleenbiggs.net if you'd like to tell us what shows and guests you'd like to hear, or any additional information you'd like to share. And until next time, everyone, remember, be you and be strong. Until then, bye-bye for now.